years ago, a major event happened, which had a long-term impact on capital and indeed the entire world. Mitch and I had spent the winter in New Zealand, where our youngest daughter lives. We were due to return to Canada in late March. Earlier that month, we started hearing about the rapid worldwide spread of what was then referred to as the coronavirus. All travelers were being advised to return to their home countries as soon as possible, as borders and airports were closing around the world. As we were due to leave in a couple of weeks anyway, we decided not to change our departure date. As it turned out, we were on the second to last Air New Zealand flight out of New Zealand for more than 2 years. By this time, masks were a mandatory fashion statement, and on arrival back in Canada, we were quarantined in our apartment for 2 weeks, relying on friends to bring us groceries. To combat the boredom, I began to make phone calls to various friends and acquaintances, in particular, people who we hadn't seen in a while. We knew Jan Greenwood from when we all lived in Kamloops and had attended the Unitarian Fellowship there. In fact, as a lay chaplain, she had officiated at the wedding of our oldest daughter, which took place in the backyard of our home. Jan told us that the Capital congregation, which we had visited on various occasions when in Victoria, was continuing to run services virtually using a program called Zoom. So every Sunday we would log in, and we enjoyed both the variety of speakers as well as getting to know people through the forum and the chat rooms. Within a year, we had decided to become members, despite the fact that we live many hundreds of miles away in Salmon Arm. In the fall of 2021, the board was struggling, and I was asked if I would be willing to become interim chair. As everything was being done via Zoom, this seemed doable. I officially became a board member at the AGM in January of 2022, and I've been the chair ever since. I had no idea what I was agreeing to. I have always been a shy person, preferring to be a listener rather than a talker, and unlike Mitch, uncomfortable with public speaking. However, the experience of chairing a board has pushed me to a confidence which I wouldn't have thought possible. Do I have a life outside of Capital? Of course. I enjoy volunteering and have done so for many organizations over the years. My current volunteer work includes being an usher at our local theatre group, which does 3 productions a year. In fact, last night we did an improv show there, and I was at that. As well, for 6 years, I have created a monthly newsletter for a local food cooperative purchasing group called the Good Food Box. And for fun, I love to play golf and travel in our little camper van with Mitch during the spring, summer, and fall. Joy has been considering over the past few months her willingness to take over as chair of the board. When she suggested that the 2 of us present a homily, I, of course, agreed. We decided that she would talk about where are we going, while my focus would be to reflect on where have we been. So now I'd like to take you back a few years in the story of Capital. After an extended shutdown of James Bay New Horizons following COVID, we were eventually able to return there in September of 2022. However, our staff and our board had to deal with their problematic management personnel. In October of 2023, they announced a massive increase in our rent from $150 per Sunday to $1,500 a month. Despite the fact that we had been renters there for many years, they were unwilling to negotiate a reasonable rate, so we decided to find a new home for our Sunday services. For several months, we met in a few different places to try them out for suitability before finally settling on Norway House. I know this was a difficult time for some of you, as we were all feeling somewhat without a home. Following a board recommendation and acceptance by the congregation in May of 2022, the search for a contract minister began. We were able to hire Reverend Ann Barker for a 6-month contract, which started in April of 2023. She worked for 3 months, returning in September for the remainder of her contract. Despite living in Saskatoon, she was able to make a couple of in-person visits to Victoria, and she helped us overcome many hurdles, as well as providing much needed congregational support, and also help to the board. Our longtime administrator, Amanda, tendered her resignation a couple of times, then changed her mind before finally making the wise decision that now was the time for her to retire. I know that my role as chair would have been so much harder without her years of experience and background knowledge of so many things capital. As a member of the Sunday Service Committee, I saw us transition from offering quality services totally online to the return to in-person multi-platform services. Despite the fact that all COVID restrictions on gatherings had been removed, we continued to wear masks for several months to protect the health of our most vulnerable. I've seen several Sunday service directors come and go. Liz Roper, Karen, Peter, and now welcoming Lee to the position. In addition to the previously mentioned roles, I also serve on the Personnel Committee with Patty, as well as the Hiring Committee, Joy, Peter, John, Sharon, and Laurie, which is working hard to find a replacement administrator. I've worked with several board members over the years: John, Jim, Herman, Jan, and Sarah, as well as my current compatriots, Kathy, Lou, Laurie, and Joy. I thank all of you for your contributions of time, ideas, and commitment to the well-being of this congregation. Conflict has risen from time to time, but we have managed to ride out the storms. In those challenging times, I always return to the first 3 principles of UU's: the inherent worth and dignity of every person, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, and acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations. If we all practice these principles on a daily basis, we can get through whatever difficulties are thrown at us. Mitch and I look forward to joining you all in person next weekend when we come to Victoria for the AGM. Thank you for listening to my reflections on over 3 years at the helm of Capital. What a lot of challenges we have overcome. And now over to Joy for her vision of where we are headed.
Thank you so much, Heather. Taking on a leadership role for the Capital Unitarian community reminds me of the time I was standing at the top of the Sky Screamer water slide, looking at the sheer drop before me. That would take seconds to slide down at the speed of light at the West Edmonton Mall World Water Park. There was very little chance of death, but I still backed down slowly, ashamed, apologetic, a coward. Yet here I stand before you, going forward, because I believe it can be done and it will be rewarding. We love our community. Also, I'll never be at the World Water Park again, so why not? We know where we've been and we know where we are, but where are we going? I first came to Unitarianism in Edmonton in the late 90s and even taught Unitarian Sunday school. I enjoyed the community, the ideas, and the spirit in the congregation. In 1999, I moved from Edmonton to Rossland in the West Kootenay, where there were no Unitarians, but I did begin a Buddhist practice there, continuing it in Victoria, where I moved in 2006. Eventually, I found Capital and began attending regularly, and here I stand. Capital is a friendly, inspiring community that's also lots of fun, which is what motivated me to become so involved. I believe that being of good cheer is so helpful in a dark world, and for me, it is part of a spiritual practice. What is Capital? It is a charitable religious organization led by a board of 5 people who will be, once they are elected, returning board members Heather Stefanek, myself, Lou or Aoife Lentz, and new members Sharon Boole and Donnie Jennings, all committed to sustaining the wonderful congregation we have enjoyed for nearly 30 years. Thank you so much. Also, I just want to appreciate Heather Stefanek, who is always present, competent, calm, a really wonderful person to work with. And after 3 years as chairperson, she's still standing, an admirable achievement, and I'm sure she could have handled the Sky Screamer. I have 3 thoughts about leadership I will now share with you. First, it is a group effort. We all have our individual strengths, weaknesses, interests, and lack of interests. For example, who here has enjoyed reading the Constitution? Lou, I imagine it's you. And if you don't care for the Constitution, I encourage you to read the bylaws. Together we have done the work, and together we will continue to do it. We have many teams and volunteers working together, including the musicians, Dick, Kathy, and Attila, the administrator, Amanda, the service director, Peter, and now Lee, the membership chairperson, Sarah, the well-being expert, Sheva, and many others whose contributions range from the most challenging financial oversight to make sure the kitchen is cleaned up after the meeting, to our elders who never fail to provide solid advice and support. Thank you all. Job 1 for leaders is to know what they're doing, or most of what they're doing. As I was a library director for around 10 years, managing staff in a CUPE union in a steelworking town. Unfortunately, being from Alberta, I didn't totally understand the labor culture of British Columbia. What a good learning experience, and it's taught me leaders do better when they know what they're doing, including rules, the context, the people they're working with and for. I hope to achieve this competence, and I have read the Constitution. So I have the power. Okay, that was first. Second, we are guided by a context of many regulations and organizations. The BC Societies Act, the CRA rules for charities, the budget, the regulations around working with staff and contracts, an affiliation with the Canadian Unitarian Council, and the principles and values of Unitarianism. And that's where the slide is coming in. Here's a slide.
It's coming. Should my computer work?
Oh, all right.
Keep talking, Joy. Keep talking. It's coming.
I have nothing to say. Okay. Okay. Oh, is that the slide? Oh.
Yep.
Just in case any of you don't know this, these are the principles of Unitarianism. And I won't read them all out, but I can really stand behind them. I believe in every single one of those principles. I think they're a good guideline for all of us to follow. And I appreciate this aspect of Unitarianism. So we have our own constitution, bylaws, and processes for getting work done. It's very useful to know all this, and we'll put the pieces together. And strangely, in the middle of all these regulations, we are encouraged to discover our own religious path. Just don't contravene the CRA regulations. The third feature of leadership is visioning, that is moving toward the future. And I was so inspired by something Michelle Gorman said at a recent meeting. We work on what is needed at the time. That is, we meet the challenges that face us today. And what are they? Our first order of future business, sadly, is to find an administrator who can carry on the incredible work that Amanda Tarling has managed for the past 23 years. And I have to say, Amanda would have blown off the skyscraper too easy and gone straight to the mind bender. Does everybody know what that is? Anyway, you can do that in your retirement. We have a hiring team that is looking for the same spirit of competence, energy, and inspiration that we have enjoyed with Amanda. A big job, to be sure. A highlight for me are the wonderful services, and we want to continue these, planning together for ideas, speakers, and inspiration, while ensuring that the details are in place. But here is my real vision for today and for always. I want each and every person who comes through our door to feel a sense of belonging, that they are appreciated, that they matter, and that they are loved. Thank you. Now we will have the meditation.